We're here today with Reverend Jerry Brown, also known as the Preacher. We're in Dallas, Texas, and we are discussing several aspects of modern life, one of which will have great interest to our audience is the Sons of Confederate Veterans. Preacher, what's your overall view of the SCV today?
I think it started out as a good system for men that their ancestors fought in the Civil War on the side of the Confederacy, to honor them. That's what it was for. However, today's society, all these men want to do is make a name for themselves. I'm this and I'm that, and they don't have power to do anything, and those that do nothing. They sit back, run their mouth, and when you try to straighten something out with them or talk to them about something, they just ignore you, because it's all about self-indulgence.
Now, here in Texas, for those who are either new to the Texas Division or are in another part of the Confederation, we've had numerous problems in this division in the past 2 to 3 years. Many ego battles, many people trying to throw other people out of the division. What's the cause of this divisiveness?
Satan. In reality, most of them don't know God, and most of them could care less. They're in it for one thing, self-gratification. I am this, I'm this commander, I'm that commander, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the state commander, or I'm the chief of this, or I'm the chaplain of this. And it's all in name, but they don't get anything done because they're more bickering than they are anything else. They want to run the show, but there's so many chiefs and not enough Indians. And nobody does anything but just talk. Especially when this thing came about the Confederate flag. You see everybody running around trying to get something done, and nothing gets done because the hierarchy in the Sons of Confederate Veterans sit back and do nothing. Oh, it'll work itself out. It'll do this. And then when they get where they can do something, they back down because they're afraid of everything. They don't want to be political, which is fine, but they don't want to stand up for what they believe either.
You know, so much has been said recently of the SCV not being put together well enough or equipped to handle the battles here in the 21st century. What's your thoughts on that? Do you believe that the SCV should become a political organization?
We have some men in the SCV that calls themselves the Vindicators. If you'll read their charter, it's the vindication of the cause. They try to keep everything like it should be. But the hierarchy could care less. You take petitions to them, you try to do something for them, you try to raise some issues, you try to protect this, you try to put flags on graves to honor the men. These people don't care. All they want to do is sit back and say, look at me, I've got something going on, this is who I am. And it's just a pile of junk, really. And people are walking away. Sure, they're enlisting people all the time, but the people that have been around a while and see what's going on, they're fed up with it.
I've noticed that membership has held fairly steadily at 30,000 nationwide, and that sounds good to someone who has never been in the organization. But what you said is really true in that many people join, but just as many people leave. And so everything just kind of treads water. What would you say would be the solution to, number one, having sustainable membership, but number two, growing that membership?
Backing up what you say you're going to do. If, for instance, if you're going to try to get recognition on your license plates for one thing, and you go to a state and they turn you down, you keep battling it. If you try to get things done for a grave, and they take the flags and they throw them away, and then you turn around and try to fight it, and your hierarchy does nothing about it, you're just fighting a lost cause. You've got to work together and quit bickering back and forth.
So many people are discussing the Confederate flag, Confederate monuments, especially today, and it's very obvious to any objective person that the people who want to take these things down have little interest in history and little knowledge of history as well. What would you say to the people who are destroying and attempting to erase the history of the Confederacy and the South in general?
Well, they've tried to do that since the war was over. But a lot of it today is people that's come from other countries. They don't even live, they weren't even from this country. For instance, there was a situation in Austin, Texas, at the University of Texas, raising Cain about a statue, and these people were from Asia. But the dean of the college just gave in because he didn't want any conflict. They paint things on the flags. They burn the flags down. They take them and they destroy them. They cut the poles down. All we're trying to do is honor what our ancestors did in the Civil War, with the war against each other, a conflict. And they're considered today as American patriots, just like they're veterans of any other war. But people, because of their color or their creed, think it's bad situation. It has nothing to do with a battle flag. All the battle flag was for was to a war. It was called a battle flag. It had nothing to do with slavery. It had nothing to do with anything like that.
It's interesting you say that because it's factually correct. The battle flag itself was for the soldiers. It was a soldier's flag to differentiate the southern side from the northern side during the war. And it had no political message whatsoever. I find it interesting that so many people today are up in arms about this subject. We saw the mayor of New Orleans recently state that he was going to correct the mistakes of the past by removing the monuments to General Lee and other Southern leaders. Now, this is interesting because this mayor is doing nothing to address the record amount of crime in New Orleans, the murders, the rapes, the robberies, the home invasions. He is doing nothing to solve that problem. Isn't this drive, this push to destroy Southern history, really a distraction?
It's a distraction for an agenda that's underlined. And if you look around, you really can see yourself what the underlining is. They're allowing thousands and thousands and thousands of undocumented people to come into this country. Refugees that are supposed to be from a war. Where are the children? Where are the little babies? Where are the women? All you see is men coming from everywhere. These are not just men that refugees. These are soldiers, young soldiers. And this country is so blind, and those that are trying to do something about it, they just shut them up.
And that's no accident. Would you say that the idea of a cohesive group of people, such as Southerners, inside the United States of America is the last true bastion of a national identity for this country? In going further along that lines, wouldn't the people who identify themselves as Southerners, who do honor their history, they would be the last line of defense for this move towards globalization?
I think part of it is, yes. I think that they're going to be one of defense. If you'll notice, if you read the paper and you see what's going on, I don't know what you know about El Chapo, or even who he is. He's the drug lord in Mexico, known all over the world. Now, what he does is not right. He sells drugs. That's his business. ISIS went in and tried to take some of it. He's already declared war on those people. Our country and men in this country, not the country as a whole, but there are men in this country that have decided to take action against ISIS and against anybody that tries to take their freedoms. They're fed up with it. They're fed up with the government telling them that they have to do it this way, that they can't do it this way, that the Constitution doesn't matter anymore. People are tired of it.
You know, you mentioned ISIS, and it's very interesting that the U.S. federal government has said that they've been bombing ISIS for well over a year, and precision-guided missiles and precision strikes, and yet no real damage has been done to ISIS. They continue to rage across the globe, specifically in the Middle East, beheading Christians, throwing gay people off roofs of buildings, generally wreaking havoc. Now, what's interesting is we see that Russia comes in recently. President Putin states that he is going to start handling and attacking ISIS. And within a simple amount of weeks, we see massive damage being done to that organization. It begs the question, does this federal government actually want ISIS to be destroyed, or are they using them for their own purposes?
Well, you have to make up that mind for yourself, because I don't have the detailed information. I can't say that. However, from what I see, I wouldn't want to mess with Putin if it was me. That man seems like when he tells you something, you can guarantee he's going to back up what he tells you. He's there to protect his country and his country's interest, period. And if you get in his way, you're going to wish you had.
Understood. And a lot of people wish that we had this kind of president here in the United States as well.
We have had in the past.
Do you think we'll see the day again when we have an upfront leader in this country?
I hope it's not too late.
Okay. Any final thoughts for the viewers at home, Preacher?
Yeah. If you want to see a change in the things that are going on in this country and anywhere in the world, then you need, for one thing, to get involved. For another, you need to pray and seek God's guidance, because He will direct you in what you should do. Without Him, there is no protection. There is nothing. And if you look around today, we are being judged because of our actions. Individually, as a nation, as a state, as a nation in a whole, and the world as a whole. God is fed up with some of the things that are going on.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, Preacher. Once again, this is Reverend Jerry Brown coming to you from Dallas, Texas. We thank you for watching, and we will see you soon. God bless.